So this is tonight's case, and what I like to do when I'm measuring is I actually like to do something like this and scroll back and forth until I have the real picture of what it really looks like. I even like to measure out, for example, how the wire turns so that I can follow it when I'm doing the case. And I study this tonight and tomorrow before I start my case. I mark out areas of clot and thrombus inside of the aneurysm. I measure the exact corners and how much turn there is, and I try to pretty much draw it and sketch it myself. I mark out the internal iliac arteries and I just trace it just like when I was a kid, and I know exactly where the inguinal ligament crosses, and if there's a branch I can put more details or less details depending on how complicated the case is. I can just add more and more and more, and I try my best to get a sense of everything rather than just drawing some random pictures. So then once we're trying to figure out whether we can do this, because this gentleman showed up with a lot of pain at around 10 o'clock tonight. He has had an aneurysm before, but we've never measured it by CAT scan, and only one kidney, and if you measure diameter there it's like 19, but that's not the way to measure it. You'd have to measure it using the true cross-sectional. But one thing we can do is we can sort of get a sense from here to about there is 36, and then from here to here is another 26 to the end of the neck. And you can see there's a little kink here, so we can know the wire is gonna want to try to bias along this inner curve, but it might hit that kink. We have to be nervous about throwing clots to his legs when we're passing wires up through this thing. And then the other thing I like to do is know, what's the distance to where the bifurcation is, which is not there, it's even further down. So we can drag this over like that, 75, and then say it's gonna be from there to another 30 maybe? Nope, that's too long. 64, 30, 60, 30 plus, that's 94, 94 plus 25, 95 plus 25 is 130, and then we have at least another 35 to the left, we know 165. And then just rough guesstimates, we're looking at like about a 12 to 13 millimeter common iliac on the right, and the bifurcation is all the way down here. So we're looking at about a 38 millimeter, and that's with no curve, and there is a little curve on the right common iliac, and we can seal with probably 13 or 14 limb, or maybe even a 16 limb could go into that. And then over here on this side, again very short common iliac, the hypogastric comes off right there, so that's just 22 plus, and there's the bifurcation right here. Yeah, 22 plus 13, about 30 on the common iliacs. They're very short common iliacs. And then 11 to 12. No, that's just the rough estimate measurements. Now you go to the real measurements, which is this, and 125. Nope. There we go. Let's zoom in more. And you can see that he has 2 aneurysms. So he has an aneurysm in his chest, right there on his heart, which measures 4.5, and probably is not going to be a problem for any time soon. His descending aorta looks okay, sort of curvy, tortuous we call it. His intestinal vessels look okay, and then you see a little bit of degeneration right here with thrombus in the aorta. Left kidney, a lot of inflammation, so possibly that some of this is the cause of his lower back pain. But his pain is, and he has a lot of like sort of fat stranding happening all around here. I don't know if you can appreciate that, but it's sort of like a dirty fat kind of sensation there. So there's something going on there that's inflammatory or infectious. And then what makes me a little nervous is just this hazy sensation here around the outer borders. Now that just could be that the aneurysm is turning, but it makes you nervous, especially when he's having lower back pain right in the middle. So now let's go back and measure the neck. Left femur comes off there. Neck measures 21. We have a nice, relatively straight looking neck to 22, and then it becomes the aneurysm. And if you look at this portion here, the aneurysm, you try to measure it from here to there. It's about 5 centimeters, and then it turns sideways. So the question is really, is this worthwhile to fix at this point? We're in a relatively rural area, so it's hard to fix him if we don't do it now. And we've been watching him. And then here is a short right common iliac measuring 14, so I think a 16. And over here, again, it's a little hazy, so it's hard to tell. That's about a 12 or 13. So I think 16s would probably be better. And looking at how they come up right next to each other. But I think I'd probably want to put the main body up on the right hand side and then let the left wire slide in from the back and enter. So I think that would be my plan.